Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org with a video tutorial for the new Boston. In this video tutorial, we're going to look at the document ready functionality and how we can use it in our page to perform a specific set of operations when we load our page. Now, the document ready functionality is part of implementing jQuery and setting everything up. So when the document has loaded, we can actually start to perform a specific set of functions or something within our page. This is important because we don't always want to just allow a user to click something and then perform an action. We might want something to happen as soon as our page is loaded. And we can also use this as an example of implementing jQuery in order for something to happen when we start our page up. So let's go ahead and start writing out the code. Now I'm going to create an area here which is a div, and I'm going to give this div an ID, and then I'm going to simply close it here. So the ID is just going to be message, and this is going to be welcome to my website. Now the main aim of this video is to, when the page loads, we want this to automatically fade in. So we need to make this div actually initially hidden. So I'm going to use an inline style attribute, which I highly discourage. I'm just using it for the purposes of this tutorial. Obviously, if you're using CSS, it's extremely good practice to put this in a separate file. However, just for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to use the style attribute. So I'm going to say display none, and this will just hide this the contents of this div when we load up our page. So let's refresh. You can see that we have nothing, although we do actually have a div here. Now what we're going to do with jQuery is when the document loads, we're actually going to fade this div in. So the opacity is going to start at 0, and it's going to graduate and eventually be at 100, so 100% visibility. So we have jQuery included down here. However, we want to create another file which handles the fading in of this div. So let's go ahead and create another file, and let's just save that inside of our JS folder, and I'm just going to call this init.js. Now I've called it init because it's this is short for initialization or initiation, sorry. Inside of here we're going to actually use the document ready functionality. So I'm going to use a $, and I'm going to say document, then I'm going to say dot ready. So this here is the function ready, this here is the reference, and that's the reference to our overall document. Inside I'm going to create a function, and I'm going to create the blocks here, and I'm going to pull that down. So essentially now what we've done is in here, after our document is ready, everything inside of this will be run. Okay, so we can either call external functions. For example, we might have a function up here called load posts, and we could say when the document is ready, load posts. Okay, so that's an example of what we could do. However, just for now, we're going to create some simple functionality and just embed it within this function. So what we need to do is we need to reference this ID, which has an ID of message, or reference this div, sorry, which has an ID of message. So let's go ahead and do that. So $hash message. Remember, we're using hash to reference the element. Dot fade in. And then we're going to give it a parameter of fast, and this will just fade it in quickly. In fact, let's just do slow so we get more of the effect visible. So now what we've done is on the document ready status, we have faded in using the fade in function at a time of slow. You can also use a numerical value in here, so an integer such as 1000, which will be 1 second because this is 1 second because this is in milliseconds, or you can use textual representations of speed. So I'm going to use slow, and this will fade in the message div. So remember, we've initially hidden it. However, this functionality will actually start to gradually show it until it's at 100% visibility. So let's go ahead and just refresh the page. Okay, so it's not working. And yeah, I know why it's not working. We've created our init.js file, however we've not included it onto our page. So again, this is extremely important. We create a script here to include this external file. So the type is text/JavaScript. The source, again, we've saved it in our JS folder, and this is init.js. So let's go ahead back to our browser and refresh again. And you can see that this div has just faded in. So using the ready functionality and referencing the document, we can perform a series of operations based on when the document has loaded, and we can then do things like call external functions, for example to load a specific set of news or anything. So this is an extremely useful part of implementing jQuery to actually allow you to perform things when your page has loaded.